HMS Queen Elizabeth is Britain's biggest ever warship. It took 9 years to build her at a cost of £3.5 billion.
HMS Queen Elizabeth will, in the years and decades ahead, represent this country's resolve on the global stage.
Now it's time to get the Queen Elizabeth operational, battle ready. Nearly 1,500 sailors, marines and aviators are about to leave on a make-or-break 4-month deployment on the high seas. This is to forge her brand new ship's company into an effective fighting force. And their main mission will be to test the top-secret F-35 Lightning stealth fighter, which will give the ship its lethal sting.
With the aircraft married up to HMS Queen Elizabeth, there's nowhere in the world we can't go and there's nothing we can't do.
But not everything will go to plan.
Fire, fire, fire. Front in bridge machinery space.
This is the inside story of Britain's biggest warship.
Keep working hard!
And the men and women who live, work and play on her and deep within.
Sometimes you go for days without seeing daylight. This at times can be a very weird life.
HMS Queen Elizabeth's maiden voyage will be a grueling deployment to get her primed for war, ready to take on the nation's enemies in an increasingly unstable world.
Are we going to get a medal for it? I hope. Medal.
Steer course 190, speed 12 knots, other units as necessary to maintain station.
Yeoman Navigator, flag Foxtrot, port outer yardarm, hoist.
Provisional taxi instructions, taxi BF5 from Bridgeport.
All pipes. All personnel involved in Procedure Alpha muster on the upper deck.
This is BBC Radio Solent.
Britain's new aircraft carrier, HMS Queen Elizabeth, leaves Portsmouth later today for the east coast of America, where 2 F-35 jets will land on her deck for the very first time.
The F-35 is the most advanced fighter aircraft in the world, and its first ever landing on this untested flight deck will be risky. But before that, a long voyage. First stop, Florida, USA.
Yes, 5 minutes to go. This is the back end of a massively long and epic summer, trying to get the ship ready to go for our first overseas deployment. Really proud moment, and seeing all the men and women on the upper deck now, flanked by the helicopters, the Royal Marine Band. And so we're feeling much more like a military outfit, which is great.
Jerry Kyd was commanding Britain's last aircraft carrier, HMS Ark Royal, when it was axed 10 years ago because of government cuts. So very few of these young sailors have ever served on an aircraft carrier.
We're about to sail. Let's make sure that throughout the pilotage we can hear a pin drop on the bridge. Focus. It's our job up here to get the ship to sea safely. Any questions? Thank you.
The man who must keep his eye on the spiritual and emotional welfare on board is the ship's chaplain. Last night he cut a branch from a tree and shaped it like a trident.
It's a fresh blackthorn staff from a little spot just up the coast from here. And one of the things that happens when you go to sea is you become very aware of just how far you are from everything that is green and growing. And I wanted to bring that with me, with us really, as a reminder of home and of the place to which we will return.
There's the Padre.
The trident, is it?
It's the trident.
What's the meaning behind it, is it?
So it reminds the ship's company of home. It's a thorn bush from Hampshire. It's quite nice, isn't it? Well, the trouble is with the bush, he's always thinking, isn't he? and of course he is completely mad.
Box of frogs springs to mind.
It's a box of frogs, yeah. He's a good man, though. Right, ready to go? Gloves?
Ready, sir.
Good. Lean reg. Should we do this thing?
Let's do it. Flash her up.
Boatswain captain, let go all lines.
This is the boatswain on the bridge. Let go, all lines.
So starboard lever head 20.
Starboard lever head 20.
Set port lever 0.
Port lever 0.
Well, not attached to Portsmouth anymore, navigator. Next stop, Florida, is it?
This is the first of countless departures HMS Queen Elizabeth will make over the 50 years of her service life.
Look at that.
God, it's packed. It's packed. Big turnout for you.
Yeah, huge turnout. Yes, it's quite moving, actually.
An emotional farewell, and the ship's company headed to the Florida sunshine. But after only a few hours at sea, and still in the English Channel, she is suddenly enveloped by a thick fog, and it's now that a shadowy presence appears off the port beam.
Dear there, this is the on-watch PWO. Due to the proximity of a Russian Federation warship, there is a requirement to minimise the electromagnetic emissions of the ship as a whole. Personal mobile phones may not be used. The information emitted by your phone can be easily collected and exploited for long-term military use. You must adhere to this order. That is all.
HMS Queen Elizabeth, still in her own backyard, has to go silent. She must make no electronic emissions, nothing that will give anything away to a possible future enemy.
Here she is, Admiral Makarov, fitted with lots of anti-ship missiles. Fully armed up, one of their latest frigates, armoured cruise missiles. A lot of Russian activity happening more and more around the UK coast. A massive change in the last couple of years, back to Russian activity we haven't really seen since the Cold War. The Russians are showing clear intent. We're back from Crimea and, of course, what's happened here in Salisbury. And so it's just a continuous reminder that we should never let our guard down.
The Russians, of course, will be very interested in this ship.
Absolutely. Whenever you're teeing up a potential fight, of course, you're looking at the opposition all the time, aren't you? Work out their weaknesses and their strengths. And so they'll be looking just as much at us as we do at them.
Who's got the sharpener?
It's back there.
Yeah, got it.
Below deck, life goes on. Russians or no Russians, the ship's company still has to be fed.
Here's the start of our 70,000 onions.
70,000?
70,000 onions we brought on, and that's the start of our potato mountain. 25 tons of potatoes we embarked. Can't just slip down to the shops when we go out deployment. We sell with about 60 days worth of food for 1,500 people, which is a lot of food.
Right, I need apricots.
Do you want everything downstairs?
I think we ordered them.
We've got 1,500 chickens, 9 whole cows worth, 90 pigs, 400 turkeys.
It's 40, yeah? 40, 80, 100, 120, 30, 140. One more. Might as well just leave it, no? Just leave the box. Just give me one more, then it'll be 250.
No.
This is what we have to batter all the time.
Next year, yeah?
This stores man.
Yeah.
Never gives us rations. Yeah.
Stores us for storing.
Yeah. So you see that every day we have to argue, give us more rations, give us this. The caterers, they do give us, but they are a bit stingy.
But Jenny, what's your budget allowance per person?
£3.11 currently per person per day. That's 3 meals a day. The chefs do some good creative work to manage to be able to deliver that.
Captain, sir.
Captain,
Sir, the P word just rung up asking if you're content to go to Aerostate Red. They're diverging from our Russian unit, sir.
Approved. Red. That's the Russian moving further away. And so we're now diverging course around. He's moving away down to the channel, down off towards Gibraltar, so we can now sort of relax a little bit in terms of sensors and emissions.
River City status 4, mobile phones may be used. Stand by to test main broadcast general alarms, no actions to be taken.
HMS Queen Elizabeth heads into the Atlantic at last. A 3,000-mile voyage ahead of her, but not before she's joined by more helicopters.
Yeah, so coming in at that sort of 270 degrees will give us a nice, it'll be 30 off wind right, so it should be okay.
These state-of-the-art Merlin Mark IVs will be used for dropping Royal Marine Commandos behind enemy lines. They join the Merlin Mark IIs already on board, which will be used primarily to search out and attack enemy submarines. And from now on, the Queen Elizabeth will not be sailing alone.
Queen Elizabeth become the guide steer course 252, speed 18.
Monmouth Bears, red 112.
HMS Monmouth, a frigate, is joining us today for the trip across the United States. So she's our bodyguard. She's built really to hunt submarines, but she's got missile systems and a gun. She is a fighting frigate.
Monmouth Bears, 083.
The Queen Elizabeth, a prime target for any enemy, whether Russian or not, will always be escorted by other warships and even submarines to protect her from attack.
Confirmed 6 knots.
But for this trip, it will just be the Monmouth, a chance for both ships to get used to working together.
It's now very frustrating trying to get the message across to her, but she's finally moving up to 135, our 8 cable.
And there are already teething problems. Monmouth's radio is down.
It's just there's comms difficulties, so we're going back to old school ways and getting it via the flashing light.
But for the captain, this little hiccup is no bad thing.
Of course, we're getting back into practicing all the traditional skills of flashing light and communicating by flags, you'd be just like the Nelsonian Navy. Because in this modern day and age where every time you transmit on radios, it's detected by satellites and enemy units. Keeping yourselves hidden is a key part of the deception plan which we operate at sea. So to not give away our position, we still in the Royal Navy use flashing light because it can't be intercepted, it's assured, it's easy, it's quick and effective. We're listening to them, and as soon as they squeak anything, and then we're on them. And so it is first to blink. So, you know, people go, what, you don't need flashing light and use of flags in the 21st century? Yeah, but you know what? It'll probably keep us alive in a fight against a state actor. Funny, isn't it?
The two ships continue west, and all the time the helicopters practice their core techniques.
Feet wet there. 80%, 90%, 93.
Honing their skills in anti-submarine warfare and the rapid deployment of Marines into action.
First man, 2 hands on. Yeah, he's halfway down, and he's on the deck.
But perhaps above all, they have to refine their search and rescue techniques, should an aircraft ever ditch or crash into the sea. But most of the ship's company remain below deck, living a subterranean existence, an enclosed underground community.
Wes, what have you got there, shipmate?
All right, sir, how are you?
Very well. What do you got there?
Cheesecake.
Cheesecake?
Yeah.
Is that high fibre, low cholesterol, slimline cheesecake?
Yeah, slimline.
Good man, well done.
All right.
Cheers,
sir.
Wes. Sometimes you go for days without seeing daylight. Take 1,200 people, put them in a tin box, surround them with high explosives ammunition, flammable fuel, running machinery, and then stick it in the middle of the Atlantic and start doing some dangerous stuff like rotary wing flying and fixed wing flying. You have to be a special kind of person to not get flustered by that.
With over 225 miles of piping on board, much of it high pressure, flooding is a constant danger.
Support party! Support party!
Floods are bad enough, but even worse, a fuel leaks.
Fire danger, fire danger, fire danger. Fire danger in the starboard propulsion motor. Location mark at 9 Quebec 1.
I say lads, nice and steady now.
There has been a fuel spill in 8 November 0 pump space.
There's just been a fuel spill through the other side, so obviously any fuel anywhere is a fire danger.
An aviation fuel pipe has burst. One spark here would be disastrous.
Really dangerous. I mean, if that went up, it's going to cause a huge fire in this compartment, a huge explosion. You know, if it's vaporised, then yeah, really, really dangerous, highly flammable. It's actually catching in my throat now. I need to go for a drink.
Just the vapours on their own pose a danger.
Start cleaning up down there. We start getting headaches, start feeling dizzy, get them out, we're rotating through, yeah? No more than 15 minutes of time in there, yeah?
When you start feeling dizzy or nauseous, out that way, all right? So they've managed to stop the flood of fuel. Obviously, the emergency party is still on scene, so if it does flash up again, so for any God forbid reason this set on fire, we can have the team to deal with it. Right. So, yeah, that's...
Overwhelming smell of fuel.
It stinks, yeah. It's horrendous.
Much of the ship is highly automated, but there are some things that still have to be done by hand or foot.
She's a big girl, 65,000 tonnes, and there are 1,200 plus people on here today. When you actually look at the size of the ship and the amount of people, it's still a big piece of real estate for not that many people to actually get around every day and clean and do firefighting and do first aid party and do their normal jobs.
So that's fine. I'm just looking for razors, metals.
So as you can see, all the refuse has to be segregated because on the other side of the flat is the pyrolysis machinery, which is how we break it all down, shred it, and then burn it and turn it into charcoal. You cannot stick metal, boots, T-shirts and other stuff through there, so we have to physically make sure that the refuse or gash is correctly segregated. Right, McCarthy, what else do you do apart from gash?
I run the logistician, I'm a writer on board, so I deal with the ship's pay and admin and basically an office job for the ship's company on board.
There's a little bit more cash for you.
Yeah, so obviously we get sea pay whilst we're away, and then for doing this it's called unpleasant working allowance, so that gives me an extra £7 a day. And I'm not just stuck in the ship's office, so it's a bit more social.
It's not very glamorous though, is it?
Not very glamorous at all, but
no.
More money.
Largest warship ever built for the Royal Navy, most modern aircraft carrier in the world, and we are still segregating gash by hand. So you can be as technologically advanced as you want to be, but if you haven't got people to clean and keep the ship hygienic, then you're on a hide into nothing.
There are no days off when at sea. Sailors work a 7-day week, and it's not made any easier when stuck below deck, whoever you are.
Usually I don't see daylight nearly enough. There's a lot of people complaining about that. I don't see daylight nearly as much as would be good for us, frankly. Very common for people to say, I didn't volunteer for the submarine service, but that's what it feels like.
Oh, bit of fresh air.
Only the aircraft handlers and the flight crews are allowed up top for any length of time.
I'm rushing myself, mate. 5 minutes of fresh air a week. Any more than that and I start going a funny colour.
No worries, sir.
Right, come on, shipmate, let's go.
After 2 weeks of hard sailing, HMS Queen Elizabeth is halfway across the Atlantic when it's announced that there's going to be an aircraft maintenance day, so no flying. The cave dwellers from below are allowed to emerge into the sunlight for the first time since they left Portsmouth.
A lot of the young sailors have not been in the middle of the ocean before, and here we are, thousands of miles from any land at all. That disconnect from modern everything, particularly for the youngsters, being away from their mobile phones and their Instagrams and their Facebook. I think they go through cold shock. So as you can see, the Royal Marines are pounding the decks dry. They always run with the tops off.
I'm singing in the rain. What a glorious
It's a little part of Britain, isn't it? Just floating around in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It's always a wonderful, wonderful sight. We've been hard at it now for a couple of weeks, so now we're having an afternoon, a bit of fun and games, get people in the upper deck. It's really part of man and woman maintenance. It's really important, not least for health. Fresh air, vitamin D, bit of sunshine.
Hi, Wes, how you doing? Good.
Yeah?
Come up to get some sunshine?
Yeah. You know what I mean?
You guys don't get much of the sun, do you?
No. You know, we are the hardest working people on board. You can see it's only two of us.
Yeah.
And that's because we have some downtime at the moment.
Yeah.
HMS Queen Elizabeth, a ship of some 1,200 souls. Shipmates who live and laugh together, but who one day might have to fight side by side and die for each other. For whatever it feels like tonight, this is no cruise ship. It's a warship whose destiny is to face down the nation's enemies.
You can come with me, shipmate. Ah, you can pipe then, shippers. Well done.
The ship is nearing Mayport, Florida, for her first ever foreign visit. The first lieutenant must visit all the mess decks with some timely advice.
Attention to the mess.
Good evening, gentlemen. Right, who's never been to America? Okay. Who's under 21? The Americans' attitude towards alcohol is very, very different. If you're under 21, it's not only a case of they won't serve you, you might end up getting arrested. American policemen are less likely to understand the behaviour of a drunken British matlow, okay? Just be careful. You could end up getting CS tasered or shot. Do not preload before you go out. If you get banged up, my ability to come and get you out is pretty limited. Principles of Shark Watch, shipmates. Go out together, stay together, come back together. Purely designed to keep you safe. Anybody not know who Timmy McCall was? Matlow that got into a taxi on his own in Dubai, never seen again. All right? I don't have to be writing letters home to people.
After 3 weeks at sea, Queen Elizabeth and Monmouth arrive at Mayport on the Florida coast.
So here we are in Florida. Everyone's in white tropical uniforms for ceremonial entry. First proper foreign visit for HMS Queen Elizabeth.
Historically, a man of war entering a foreign port will parade its entire ship's company on deck to show that the guns were not manned, so had no hostile intentions. Today, it's purely ceremonial, to make a spectacle out of arrival, especially to a friendly nation. So no weapons on show, just a very sharp stick at the bow.
It's wonderful. Looking forward to that glass of wine in an hour.
It's the best job in the world. We're on holiday and we get paid for it as well. Although we do a lot of long hours, but this is the downtime for the young ones, especially the young ones. For them, this is it's a good experience for in their career, because they've just joined. They know they're going to do hard work, and then they're going to get the reward for it.
We've
all been banged up in a confined space, when suddenly we can get ashore to eat food that hasn't been produced in the ship's galley, to get to drink endless amounts of the local brew. It's part of that bonding process. There will be new groups of people with new shared experiences that they take with them back into that big grey vessel before we head out again onto the ocean, which is nobody's friend.
Chris, I've had the most amazing time. We've literally pulled up to Mayport. The whole of the row needs 1,200 people, and we've come to Jacksonville. And everyone, there's a street of people. We are living it up. We are living it up.
So it's been worth all the gas?
Absolutely, it's been worth all of that gash. It's been worth all of that gash. At the end of the day, work harder, say, but you play harder.
The trouble is, some sailors played a bit too hard, at least as far as the local police were concerned.
A local story is making news across the ocean. 6 British sailors arrested in Jacksonville Beach, charged in alcohol-related violence.
2 had to be tasered, one for resisting arrest, another sailor for disorderly conduct.
It's 0800 and time for the ceremonial raising of colours. But overnight news of the arrested sailors is all over the press, on both sides of the Atlantic.
There's a little bit of don't believe everything you read in the press back at home. One of our lads was arrested for jaywalking, as in trying to cross the road illegally. He's decided to argue with the police officer. He resisted arrest. He was put on the ground and ended up being tasered in the back of his right leg. 2 guys were involved in a minor altercation amongst themselves, and the other 3, I think there was a minor scuffle.
Are you surprised?
Am I surprised? No. Am I disappointed? Yes. And it's not the positive good news story that the RN is now trying to push out. We are here for the F-35 landings, not for 6 individuals misbehaving ashore.
There's no doubt the sailors overstepped the mark, and they got more than they bargained for, much more. And the press have had a field day.
The quotes we're seeing online, I'm pretty annoyed about it, actually. It's hugely frustrating for us because the headlines back home about this ship is all about drunks, and it couldn't be further from the truth, and it really, really pisses off everyone on board the ship.
After a night in jail, the sailors went to court. The judge found them guilty of misdemeanours, but waived their fines and sent them back to the ship.
Then we got taken to the police station, and then we got put in a holding cell. The rest of the people got arrested that night in Jacksonville.
How many people in there?
About 20, I'd say. Room was full on.
Jamie Lutas, one of the villains of the piece, was arrested for pushing a police officer, but he tells the chaplain, the ship's go-to counsellor, that he was only trying to help a shipmate in distress.
I don't know what happened, but all I seen corner of my eye was someone fall over. Yeah. I had the crack of the head on the floor. As I bent down to sort of turn him over, the police sort of stopped me. So natural instinct was just to sort of put my hand out and sort of push him back, just to see if my friend was okay. I got rested to the floor, basically.
You were put down on the ground?
Yeah. Face down on the ground.
And presumably quite scary.
Yeah, it was. Never been arrested before. I don't blame for arresting us, but didn't need to use the force that he did. None of us we went just had a few drinks, that's all we had. There was nothing sure, other than that, really.
And in fact,
you know, since joining the Navy, it's drilled into you to help, to assist others that are in need. So it comes naturally to you, and it's always in the back of your mind, always. So to see that, what happened to that, that bloke on board, you didn't even think about it. I had no time to think about it. You just reacted. And if it was left to it, then it would have been fine. But because someone got in the way and someone tried to stop me from doing what I needed to do, I was punished for it.
That can be shredded, which is next door. We couldn't believe it, especially some of them that had been done for what they'd been done for. We was all a bit they're just all lovely, lovely lads, and they've been painted as British thugs. It was just all blown out of proportion.
You know how it is, you get to blow for a bit of steam and all that stuff. You've been at sea for some time. It's expected. feel sorry for the guys, but they have to learn it the hard way sometimes.
The captain calls together his heads of department.
Right, everyone, thanks for coming up. So I want to keep perspective here. It's just been a silly story expanded and sensationalised by several rags at home, which is deeply upsetting. We've worked out we've had about 5,500 people runs ashore here, of which 6 have fallen foul temporarily with the local police, which is an astoundingly good a good record for behaviour.
The sailors, already tried and found guilty in a civilian court, can't be tried again on board. And in any case, Jerry Kyd's decided they've been punished enough, especially by the British press.
My word, they learnt their lesson. Of course we never excuse bad behaviour ashore. Of course not. We have to recognise the average age on board the ship is 24 or 25. You know, we're not automatons, not robots, and we want them to have some character. You can't have cowering, quiet individuals, because the nation will expect these people to go to war, put their lives in danger, potentially get wounded or even killed. It's all about relativity.
Ironically, the Mayport incident has served to bond the ship's company even tighter. They've all closed ranks in support of their own. It's as well because the ship now faces her biggest challenge to date. In just over a week, the first F-35 jet fighters will attempt to land on her flight deck for the very first time. And test flying, particularly at sea, is incredibly dangerous.
Emergency landing, emergency landing, emergency landing.
We're just practicing now for a crash on deck scenario. So the mailing on 2 spots is going to simulate a crash on deck, and we're going to respond accordingly. So you'll see all the aircraft handlers running out hoses, fighting the fire, obviously suppressing the flames, and then they'll gain entry into the aircraft, shut it down, extract the pilot, job done.
The F-35 will come down like a rocket in reverse, and nobody's sure just how the flight deck will react. Everyone's hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst.
So you have to be ready for anything.
Like coiled springs, Chris. Like coiled springs, mate. So we just keep practicing, and hopefully, like, the day of the races, you know what I mean? Your training will kick in, and everyone will be fine, and then back in the locker for seeing medals.
Jenny Kerwood is also preparing for the F-35 trials.
Fleet Logistics Coordinator, good afternoon.
Hi Rob, it's Jenny from Queen
She has
Elizabeth.
to make sure of a vital delivery from the UK in case of emergency.
As we are looking at getting a first resupply of blood out for the fixed-wing flying trials. The blood we've sailed with will go out a day after 28 days.
2, 3, lift.
So we need to get another box of blood out from the UK to hit us in our port visit in Norfolk. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Jenny. Bye-bye.
Cheers, bye. Because of the flying trials and the increased likelihood that there may be an accident, there is a requirement for blood.
It has to be British blood, does it?
Yes, we have to get blood that's approved for the NHS out to us. It's not an option to go abroad, but it doesn't last forever, and 28 days is probably the shortest shelf life. I think I have filtered milk that lasts longer than blood.
After break, spring into forward straight away, starts turning him and passing him.
The man who will be overseeing the first landing of the F-35 jet, literally from the glass-fronted flight control, or FLICO, is Commander James Blackmore.
It is a big day coming up for me personally, but for the ship, for the Royal Navy, for the defence at large, and I think for the nation as well. But until we do it for the first time with the aircraft, we don't truly know how it reacts with the flight deck. We simply don't know until we do it for real.
And the first to land will be a Royal Navy pilot.
Yep, Commander Nathan Gray, a good friend of mine. Him and I have known each other for pretty much 20 years now. We've flown Harriers together. Very, very talented test pilot. So to have a good friend of mine coming to the deck is a real privilege.
"40-year-old Nathan Gray is the Royal Navy's top test pilot. He's been training on the F-35 in America for the last 3 years.
The day's drawing near to the first landing, which is exciting. It's getting closer.
Patterson Naval Air Station on America's East Coast. Nathan is going through his final preparations for that critical first landing, which, if all goes well, will be followed by a first ever launch.
So much could go wrong. There could be things that we haven't thought of. We'd like to think we know that when the jet lands on board the deck for the first time, we're not going to burn a great big hole in the flight deck. That's what we think, but we don't really know it until we actually do the event. There's a lot of pressure. The nation are watching, but not just our nation. Nations from around the world are watching because this is the largest defence project in the world. We've done lots of simulator trials, we've done lots of tests. We've got computational flow dynamics. It's all computer equation driven. It's our best guess.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 6, 6.
So many complicated things and interactions going on with the airflow over the deck at varying different angles of approach and also varying airspeed.
We're coming down the starboard side here of the ship.
But again, you never know from simulation until you actually do the real event.
Right, guys, gather round. The worst case scenario for us for an F-35 crash on deck is if it's landed, it's still on its wheels, and the pilot is still in the cockpit with the engine running. Right, that is the worst case scenario. Right, go! Now, the engine's still running, but the two pins are in, right? So the canopy's not going to blow and the ejection seat's not going to go up. You can either straddle at the front or you can go around the back. But what he needs to be doing now, Mac, checking airways, making sure they're okay. That primary survey, and then using the rescue hoist, winch the pilot out into the pod and down.
Of course, if things go wrong, Nathan may already have ejected. It is one of the greatest fears for any fighter pilot, because whilst an ejection seat is designed to get you out of trouble, it can compound the problems considerably. As Nathan found out for himself as a young trainee pilot back in 2002. It was December the 15th at RAF Wittering, and a day he will never forget.
Just after we got airborne, the Harrier's Pegasus engine catastrophically failed and exploded. That caused the aircraft to catch on fire and effectively roll upside down and impact the ground. I was with Lieutenant Commander Jack London, who was in the back cockpit. We both ejected. My ejection seat worked, got me out, but unfortunately for Jack, it didn't quite work, and we lost Jack.
That must have had a huge effect on you.
It did. It was really hard. It still is really hard. Obviously, there's always going to be an underlying concern there, which actually has helped me to become a better test pilot, because you're never blasé about any event now. It was really difficult to get over because the work still has to go on. We still have to keep flying the aircraft and still do the job, protect the nation. It certainly made a lot of us reflect on our own mortality. Jack London, by far, the Royal Navy's finest fighter pilot. I'd like to think he's looking down now, having been the person who taught me short takeoffs and rolling vertical landings. And we do the same manoeuvres again in the F-35, and we'll be doing it on HMS Queen Elizabeth. So yeah, I'd like to think he's looking down proud.
Before that all-important first landing, Nathan Gray will rendezvous with HMS Queen Elizabeth at Norfolk Naval Base, the largest naval base in the world. Here, it's a far cry from the Florida sunshine.
Morning, chaps. Whoa! I'm just trying to concentrate on keeping balance and keeping at least one eye open. Very windy.
These winds will be invaluable for the flying. But before then, Queen Elizabeth will make a brief but vital stop here to pick up equipment, stores and extra personnel for the 2 months of intensive flight trials ahead.
Very exciting, brilliant to be here. Enormous naval base, and it's nice to see other aircraft carriers here, and back alongside the Americans we'll be working with in the future. So it's nice to be in their heartland. This is their Portsmouth, only slightly bigger.
Very good.
As soon as the Queen Elizabeth is secured alongside, loading starts. Tons of flight testing equipment will be needed. Bombs and missiles too, that will be loaded onto the F-35s. Over 250 aeronautical scientists and technicians arrive, who will have to monitor just how well the aircraft interacts with the ship, or not. But nothing's going to happen without the test pilots.
Hello, Nath.
How are you?
Good. How are you feeling?
I'm excited. I'm really excited.
Been a long time coming.
Yeah. The carrier program and the F-35, they were always 20 years away, 10 years away. It was always a distance away. And now it's a few days away. It's real, and it's going to happen. It's amazing.
Oh, look at that. Got my name on it. And a curtain. Is that for privacy? Okay. Thank you.
Right.
This is very nice, isn't it?
That's how the other half live.
Is it? It's the first time I've lived as the other half.
Yeah, right, so.
Cool, mate. Thank you. Yeah, I'll see you soon. Wow. This is it's plush.
Isn't it? It's quite spacey.
It is. There's plenty of storage. Most important bit, a bed. I think that's all we've got. We'll have time for the next 2 months. Sleep, eat, fly.
Good morning, Queen Elizabeth, First Lieutenant speaking. There is a requirement to clear lower deck of all personnel to unload 3 articulated lorries worth of frozen and fresh food. The sooner this is achieved, ladies and gentlemen, the sooner I'll be in a position to pipe leave for the remainder of the Saturday routine. That is all.
All available cranes are needed to load the bombs, so everything else is brought on by sailor power.
Sometimes you just have to go old school and hand over hand it, and it actually can be the quickest and easiest way of getting it on, especially when we've got concurrent activity of bombs and we've got other naval stores, engineering stores as well. Once they get going, we can achieve quite a lot in a short period of time, especially as they're not getting leave till it's all done. It's like I tell my children, until you tidy your bedrooms up, you can't go out. So yeah, they're on to a carrot at the end of it.
So if we talk about your main runway now, right up the deck, literally 900 feet long up to the top of the ramp. Yeah, so 350 to 550, those markings will be put in, and we'll look for...
So far, Nathan's only landed on a replica flight deck in Patterson River. This is the first time he's set foot on the real thing.
It's a long way down.
It is. You see 5 feet.
We'll make sure those rescue boats are ready.
Shark repellent spray. So this is probably one and only times that you'll see the flight deck from this perspective.
Yeah, no, it really is. It's happening, isn't it?
Is it? We're nearly there.
Hey?
Nearly there.
Stop. Now, I've practiced tens and tens of ski jump takeoffs, but it just doesn't feel the same as this. Maybe it's the 60-foot drop off the end as opposed to a 15, 20-foot drop onto the land, and there are more consequences to it going wrong.
So where you land?
So this is it, spot 3. Directly opposite Flyco, so if there's any criticism, and I'm sure everybody's a backseat driver, so there'll be some light criticism, I'm sure, especially in the bar that evening. So I'll be coming in a gentle descent, slowing down all the way to 100 feet, and then finally coming to the hover around 100 feet, but really looking at the Flyco tower and putting my eye line, the top of the tower there. I then line up on this VL vertical landing center line to get the spot. So my bum and my head should be directly above that point there.
And finally, along with the bombs and the bullets, that vital order of British blood arrives from the UK should anything go wrong.
That's it. It's just one box.
So at last the blood's arrived, Jenny.
This is it. We had 9 hours to spare, and it's on. One box. It's Christmas Day for blood. The medics are very happy. We're safe. We got our blood.
Tomorrow, the ship goes back to sea. Ahead of her, in less than 48 hours, a make or break mission. To land an F-35 Lightning on her deck for the first time. For Nathan, it will be the pinnacle of a career that was so nearly cut short in 2002, when he had to eject from that blazing Harrier. He will now leave the ship before she sails, but the next time he comes on board, he will be in an F-35, if all goes to plan. The Queen Elizabeth and the Monmouth head out towards a classified location somewhere off the coast of Virginia. There is now just 24 hours to that first F-35 landing, and in the little time left, the flight deck teams check and double-check everything is in order.
The key thing for us is that we need to check the deck is clear of any debris which may cause damage to those aircraft. If you could imagine something smaller than my little fingernail, piece of metal, ball bearing, something that might have fallen off a vehicle, someone's shoe, buckle, anything like that. If it was to be ingested into the engine of an F-35, it could write the engine off. So you're talking about something that costs pence could write off something that costs millions and millions of pounds, and ultimately, of course, the life of the pilot that's inside that aircraft. It's really important in these last 24 hours, make sure the deck's absolutely clean and fit for the aircraft to come on board.
So we're going to take him round on the wingtip safety line.
The deck is marked off in sections, and when aircraft land, they are guided from one section to the next by flight deck directors. It can be a complex choreography.
So one more time, I'll recover him, pass him to Jono, Jono to Billy, Billy to Gribbs, Gribbs to Dave, Dave to Bungie, Mark.
Safe in these hands.
Don't stand by that mailing. As the recovery director, I'll be marking the spot for where the aircraft's going to land.
You'll be bringing him in?
So I'm bringing them in, yes. So I'll be recovering, and then I'll take him off the hotspot, and I'll taxi him round the deck, pass him on to one of the other directors.
What's it like doing that, Scouts?
It's great. It's the best part. Everyone wants to do it. You know what I mean? Few are chosen.
It must be exciting.
Yeah, I'm very excited. As I say, this is why I joined the Navy, and this is why I'm an aircraft handler. Best job in the Navy.
His nose is going to be about here, or his nose wheel. No, not at all. Just make sure you've got room outside to get the lashing patterns on.
The Monmouth limbers up. Tomorrow, she must be ready to respond to any emergencies.
Little things may go wrong. If they do go wrong, let's just react to them and deal with them in the professional manner we do. Be professional about all we do, directions, hand signals, hand movements. So get a good night's sleep. Come in tomorrow with your game faces on.
It's the big day. Almost a decade since the last Royal Navy fighter landed on the last Royal Navy carrier. In a few hours, if all goes well, 2 F-35 Lightnings will have landed and launched from this deck, sparking a new era for the Royal Navy. For the aircraft handlers, the morning starts with hot bacon butties.
Nothing but net.
Yes.
Oh, look at that.
Today's going to be a good
Well
day.
proud of him.
Yes.
I think the key point to bring out, and we know exactly what we're going to be doing, and you guys will be all over it. Okay, so all I will say is just stay cool and calm today. Don't get too enthusiastic in what we're doing. Okay, it's quite a simple evolution. We're only recovering 2 jets. Let's just all work as a team and get this evolution completed. We happy? Any questions? Happy days.
Port 25.
Yeoman navigator, flag foxtrot, port outer yardarm, close up, hoist.
Yeoman Roger.
Flag Foxtrot, which signifies fixed-wing flying at sea, has not been raised on a Royal Navy warship for nearly 10 years. Pattison River alerts the ship that the F-35s are fired up and ready for action.
Jets have started, good to go, about to taxi. Both about to taxi, excellent, thank you.
Jets are airborne. 10-17.
Perfect.
It's all out.
Box, thank you very much.
Final once over the deck.
Indeed, yep, final last minute check of the deck, make sure there's absolutely nothing on there that's going to cause us any issues, and 20 minutes away from the first aircraft. Excitement is rising massively. How close we are now is brilliant.
The F-35s, followed by an observer jet, appear on radar for the first time.
65 airborne.
The cave dwellers below crowd into the hangar to watch a live feed from the flight deck.
6 for about a mile if you want to elevate up to pre-K. Okay, load man expected.
Sorry, drop the stern, okay.
$211, 123 positive.
One F-35, flown by squadron leader Andy Edgell of the RAF, stays aloft, whilst the other, flown by Nathan Gray, makes its final descent towards the ship.
Zone the speed to 150.
Nathan talks himself in to the air traffic controllers.
And coming around for 100 foot fly through.
He first goes for a fly-through to check out the deck.
Amazing view of the flight deck. Control test on the LRP page, I'm showing 10 knots for ship speed.
Roger. Capture wings, that'll be the final approach now to 3 spot.
Up to now, it's been a mock-up deck and a simulator. This time, it's for real.
Steady on DFC, 10 knots, aircraft accelerating. Settings look good, or sound good rather. Fuel's good at 3.2, slowing it down. Good altitude capture, 100 feet. Good lineup. Heavy. Not experiencing any vortices, bringing it in. Slow it down, good altitude. I can see the top of Flyco. I can see the faces. Into the hover, alongside spot 3.
This is the moment of truth. Will the deck hold up to the immense downward heat and thrust?
And moving it across the deck. Easing it across.
And will the jet be able to handle the difficult crosswinds?
And down we go. Touchdown. Brakes are on. Yes! Yes! Unbelievable.
Fantastic, what a great landing.
How are we going on with the second aircraft? We're just waiting for the confirmation the deck's fit, and then we won't be far off it, sir.
Yeah, good, okay.
The deck is checked immediately, and there's no apparent damage. But it's early days. There'll be hundreds more landings in the coming weeks. Today, however, is all about firsts. Andy Edgell, the first RAF pilot, comes in close behind for another perfect landing. And now Nathan lines up for the first ever launch.
Right, launch checks. Paddles, ready, fast, tower.
Traffic enough to fit main runway.
Checks complete, press permissions, launch the jet.
Launch the jet.
Definitely a picture. That's amazing, isn't it?
Very special moment.
Very special. Absolutely brilliant. First launch from Queen Elizabeth, just very emotional. It's just fantastic. There's been a national effort that's gone into this. All for basically this next milestone, which has just happened. That launch of that British naval pilot off a carrier. It's been a wonderful day today. At the start of the new era of carrier-based aviation for UK defence around the world for the next 20, 30 years. We're back.
Is everyone all right? Yeah. Let's give yourself a big round of applause.
Winky's getting
Don't know what flapping was about.
Winky, coffee white too, mate.
Piece of piss, these jets.
How was it?
It was amazing. It was amazing. Completely privileged handling experience.
So it went well?
Yeah, it all went really well. Yeah, really, really well.
Congratulations! We did it! It happened! Can you believe it?
I think we were all nervous this morning. I mean, you're always going to have nerves when you embark on board a ship. It took me back 10 years to Harrier days.
So, Nath, do you think Jack London was with you today?
Absolutely, yeah, I do. I think he's always on my shoulder, looking out for me. I think whenever I find myself in an awkward situation or a situation that could go wrong, it tends to go right, and that's not through any natural ability, and I wouldn't necessarily put it down to luck. So I think he's definitely looking out for me.
That was amazing, Chris. What a time to be alive in the Royal Navy. I'm just going for a smoke, right, so I'll talk to you again later.
Launch the jet.
Next time, ship, aircraft and crew take things to a new limit. Flight trials ramp up. The deck is given a massive pounding, and the ship confronts a hurricane head-on.
Pulling back the curtain on how the world works with dramatic true stories. Tunnel 29 available to listen and download on the BBC Sounds app. And on BBC 4 Now, Time Shift combines personal accounts and archived footage exploring the men who built the liners.